Let's talk about what John Lynch said today. He spoke for about 25 minutes, answered all the questions we had. The first question was about Trey Lance. We followed up as much as we could. Based on what John Lynch said, what is your takeaway about Trey Lance's future with the 49ers?
I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, and I don't like saying at the end of the day, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what they say, right? He could still possibly get traded. But I walked away from this press conference not thinking he's more likely to get traded than before when I watched it. It seemed, if anything, it seemed like he's less likely to get traded. What we came away with, John Lynch says, I absolutely expect Trey Lance to be on this roster. Which is a good sign for Trey Lance. He also kind of said, there's a lot of smoke there, but not a lot of activity, not a lot of substance. So basically, the way they value Trey Lance is not being reciprocated in these trade talks. People aren't offering them enough for them to want to move on him.
Real quick, maybe they haven't offered him anything. Maybe it's like, hey, what's Trey Lance? What would you like? It's like conversations, but no offers. That's possible.
Yeah. And then the other thing is he said Trey Lance has been aware of these conversations the whole time. I know some people were saying that, how bad that sucks to be Trey Lance and see Ian Rappaport report that you're going to be traded. But it seems like Trey Lance knew the whole time, based on what John Lynch said, that he's been in talks with him at least. Maybe that went after. I don't know. But it totally, to me, it seems like kind of what, like I've been saying, is they would be open to trading him, especially John Lynch, if they could get an offer that was big enough to make them want to move on him, but it doesn't seem like they're going to.
And what would that offer be? My guess is they would trade him right now for a second-round pick, but I don't believe they're going to get that offer. And we've talked about why. I've talked about why. And so the question is, would you trade him for a third-round pick? I don't even know if they get that offer, but to me, the only reason you're trading him is because you have a win now team and you're trying to win the Super Bowl this year. You're telling me this third round pick 84, is going to be the difference between, or whatever it is, pick 80 something, the difference between the Niners winning the Super Bowl or not winning it this year? I'm skeptical. Highly. Yeah. There's like a 2% chance of that actually happening. So unless you're telling me you're getting a top 50 pick, someone who could actually make an impact this year and be the difference between a Lombardi or not, I think that one's hard to sell. So I do feel like, there's a price here. They're open. He knows the deal. They clearly want Brock to be their starting quarterback, which kills me. We'll talk about that later. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, the market isn't what they want, and they got some time on their hands because of injuries.
Yeah, and maybe we could talk about Aaron Rodgers. He just got announced traded to the Jets, and So here's what think about this: they traded 2 seconds, and they swapped the 15th and the 13th to get Aaron Rodgers. So if Aaron Rodgers is only worth 2 seconds, what makes people think that Trey Lance is going to get that? He's not going to get that. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what the 49ers probably want for him, is something in that range, a high second, late first, or 2 seconds, something like that.
Let me put Trey Lance in perspective, and this is no fault of his. I really feel that the Niners have done him a very big disservice. Mm-hmm. But the year that gives him value, the year that made him the number 3 pick in the league, was 2019.
Yeah.
Every day that goes by is a little bit further away from 2019. And frankly, that was a long time ago. I mean, I'm sure we go back in the NFL and look at guys who were top 10 in QBR, passer rating that year, who are freaking trash now. Like, that was a long time ago. And I know he's still young, but still, like, that value is based on a long time ago. And the more time that goes by, the more I think teams are like, hold on. Yeah, we liked him, but do we still? What's happened? What's changed? Mm-hmm. So all that's going into it, and I think that's why the Niners, this is the mess they created. You trade up this much, you put a guy on the bench for a year and then get him injured. You can't just flip him for a second and say, hey, it didn't work out. No harm, no foul. No, you got to see this through. You got to see. You can't wash your hands of Trey and get out of it that easily.
Yeah, and if Aaron Rodgers is getting you 2 seconds, Trey Lance, what is he getting? A third, a fourth, something like that?
Maybe. 2/4. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe conditional or something like that. So it's not worth it. It never really has been. I never thought it was going to happen. I still don't. And here's the other thing: if John Lynch really wanted to just really trade Trey Lance, what he would say is the phone has been blowing up for Trey Lance. Not that we're not really getting that many calls. Right? It would be the exact opposite.
I want to say something else. So the Niners are essentially want us to believe that they're so down on Trey or whatever. Well, I don't even know if they want us to believe that, but the theory is that he's been so bad in practice. But remember, he got hurt week 2. So these practices would have been his rookie year when he was doing the scout team. And the job of the scout team is imitate the quarterback for this week. I could see a 21-year-old quarterback who's still learning who he is as a quarterback to struggle at that job. Jimmy never did that job. Jimmy never had to be the scout team quarterback for the 49ers. He got traded here. He learned the offense. They put him on the field. He was a gamer. We don't know if Trey's a gamer because he hasn't played more than like 6 consecutive quarters without getting injured or removed from the lineup. So he might just be a gamer like Jimmy and Brock, right? Because if Brock was great in practice, he wouldn't have been the 3rd-string quarterback, right? They would have seen this. So gamer qualities.
Yeah, I mean, again, tape's still out on Jalen, or the jury's still out on Trey Lance. And I think even the 49ers feel that way. I really do. I think the 49ers still are like, man, this guy could be good. He could be not.
I wish they felt that way. I'm going to say that. I wish they felt that way. But sometimes the way they talk scares me. That for example, it's so similar to the Philadelphia Eagles. I mentioned them every show. The Eagles had a quarterback from North Dakota State that they traded up for and a backup quarterback who won a Super Bowl. And the Eagles, they didn't say, let's go with the backup quarterback who won a Super Bowl. They said, we got to see this through with this guy because we thought he was special. He got hurt. We don't know. And then they found out and they moved on from both of them. And now they got Jalen Hurts. And I feel like you made too much of a move. They traded up for Wentz. You traded up for Lance. And I think Lance, at his age, Wentz was still at school. Like you're not allowed to just get rid of him for a 3rd-round pick. You actually have to see what you can do with him before you ruin his career.
I think Kyle Shanahan is looking at this like the opportunity to see it through. Now that Brock Purdy's hurt, it's Trey's chance to OTAs.
I'd like to think that too.
Preseason 1 through 4.
Every time he opens up his mouth about Sam Darnold, I question it. But I'd like to think that too. One thing I want to say is that I'd like to see Trey Lance with Christian McCaffrey. The way I look at it is the offense sucked last year. It sucked with Trey. And then Jimmy came on and it sucked with him. And they lost to Denver. They scored 10 points in Denver. And then they were averaging about 19 a game with all this firepower and genius, brain power that they have. Couldn't figure out how to score 20 points a game consistently. Christian McCaffrey comes, everything takes off. All of a sudden, Jimmy's good. He's not throwing picks. Brock comes in, never has to play without Christian McCaffrey. He's great. I'd like to see what Trey Lance, what the Christian McCaffrey effect will be on Trey Lance. Like I know Trey isn't as good of a checker downer as Brock Purdy. That's a little bit of an adventure for him, but just the running game. What will Trey Lance do for Christian? I think because McCaffrey was averaging like what was he? I mean, about 4.7, 4.8. I think if you have to worry about him and Lance, a dual threat quarterback and McCaffrey,
yeah.
I mean, that's how he was killing it with Cam Newton earlier in his career. So I think the offense could be really, really good if it's just Trey handing off to Christian, Trey handing off to Elijah, Trey handing off to Jordan Mason. I think that offense, the NFC Championship offense that won, could work with Trey. And if they do that, they might not start the season 3-5. They actually might win games just by handing off and playing defense. What killed me last year was that Trey had to run. He couldn't just hand off. You're ready. Go.
So one of the things that in regards to Trey Lance, this whole thing is like they're letting him compete. And a lot of people are like, oh, he shouldn't have to compete with Sam Darnold. For me, I don't care that he has to compete with Sam Darnold because if he can't compete with Sam Darnold and win, then he's not who any of us want him to be or think he is. So to me, that compete with Sam
Darnold. If Sam Darnold competes with Trey and beats out Trey, then I think a lot of us will be intrigued by Sam Darnold.
Correct.
Because the one thing about Darnold, it's different about him and Trey to say like who's kind of like the Alex Smith here. Darnold's never been in a good organization or a good team ever.
Yeah.
And Trey, has been. He's been on a good team, a good organization with good coaches. So what's this going to do for Sam? Maybe nothing, but it's different. Yeah.
I've always just wanted Trey to get the opportunity. I never wanted anyone to give him anything. Like, just give him the opportunity to compete. And if he's that guy, he'll beat him out. I think Trey knows this is his last opportunity. I think Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch know this is his last opportunity, and they're not going to hand it to him. And I don't think they should. I'm a coach. I'm always all about competition. Like, go out there and compete, best man win. And that's all I've ever wanted for Trey Lance. And I think he's going to have that opportunity this season. And I think he's going to win. I really think he'll beat Sam Darnold in the competition.
I think the Niners sort of created the perception last year that they handed him the job They just got rid of Jimmy, or they just benched him. He didn't do anything to lose the job. Then they had that, like, they brought in 16 of the most senior members of the roster and like tried to convince them to support Trey, which is unprecedented. And I'm sure one of those players leaked it, which is why Jay Glazer reported it. Yeah. So maybe they feel like that was on them, and this competition will it'll give Trey his best shot to win over the team legitimately.
Yeah. I think that there was a mistake that they realized, and they're changing it this year. And I honestly think they don't really care who wins the competition. It could be Sam Darnold.
They got two number 3 picks, right? Right. They're both like 26, 22, whatever. Yeah. One of them will work it out.
Put the ball out there, see who wins, and I have no problem with that. I really don't.
Yeah. My problem is the way the Niners have gotten Trey Lance injured so quickly. I mean, they played him 3 preseason games. His rookie year got him injured by the 3rd game. Remember, Jimmy went down. Trey comes in halftime, 2 quarters, starts the next week, plays, then he's injured. So that's 6 quarters he plays. And then he starts this year, gets injured in the 5th quarter. Like, they got to keep him healthy. I'd like to, and he has to keep himself healthy too. I mean, he has to slide, all of that. Otherwise, he'll be hurt at some point in the preseason, is his future with the 49ers, and Sam Darnold will be starting week 1. That could happen too. So I really hope the Niners don't do that. Because you know how the Niners do in preseason? All the good players get to sit. And then if you're competing, you're out there with backups, and it's like the Wild West.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, the unfortunate part about the Trey Lance injury part that makes it so frustrating is guys like you and myself and Jesse and countless others were tweeting out, if you keep using Trey Lance this way, he's going to get injured. It was so predictable, and it happened. And hopefully they learn from that.
I had a live blog for Sports Illustrated. I do it every day, every game, and I always have like keys to the game before. And I believe that day one of them was either the live blog or the preview. It was like, don't use Trey Lance like a fullback.
Yeah,
and they did. Yeah. Anyway, Monsa says 8 games, 152 yards per game. Franchise quarterback, bring back lemonade stand. Yeah, with Brock, like he was averaging like 220, 230 yards a game. Kurt Warner was throwing. Like he was leading the league in yards per game for like 3 years. So, and unless you're telling me like Brock Purdy's the next Tom Brady, who's gonna develop from late game manager into the greatest quarterback of all time, I just don't see it.
Yeah.
Prince KO says, I got this vibe that Kyle forced John to put out the trade rumors. Fire. He started with the "for now" statement. Lynch so eager to move on, but Kyle isn't. That's possible. That's possible.